In a foggy night, where the silence was interrupted only by the occasional whispers of the wind and the footsteps of night watchmen, St. Clair Psychiatric Hospital was following its usual routine. The corridors were calm. Patients were either sleeping or lost in their own thoughts. However, this tranquility was about to be shattered by an event that no one could foresee. Something large, imposing, and unexpected was about to cross the hospital doors. A mystery hung in the air, a presence that made hearts race and senses sharpen. A distant roar echoed, breaking the serenity of the night, leaving a sense of unease that quickly spread among the few who were still awake. But what could be so audacious as to invade this place of safety and recovery? The answer, more surprising and thrilling than anyone could imagine, was about to be revealed. Mary Hudson, an elderly patient at St. Clair Psychiatric Hospital, was a quiet and enigmatic presence in the institution's corridors. With her white hair carefully tied in a bun and eyes that seemed to carry the stories of a century, Mary stood out among the other patients. The staff knew her as a kind but reserved woman who spent most of her days in silence, observing the world around her through the hospital windows. Her room, although simple, was adorned with drawings of animals she herself had drawn, reminiscences of a past that few knew. Mary's silence, however, was not just a choice, but a consequence of years of battling a mental illness that had slowly erased part of who she was. Before her hospitalization at St. Clair, Mary had lived a vibrant and purposeful life as an animal keeper at a famous zoo. She was a well-known and respected figure, not only by visitors but especially by the animals she cared for. Her bond with the lions was particularly special. She spent hours with them, understanding their needs, behaviors, and even moods. Mary always believed that animals, especially lions, possessed an intelligence and sensitivity that often surpassed that of humans. She was known for her ability to communicate with them in a way that seemed almost supernatural. Her dedication to the lions was not just a job, but a passion that shaped her daily life. Mary's life began to change drastically when her mental health started to decline. What began as occasional memory lapses and episodes of anxiety gradually evolved into a more severe condition that affected her ability to care for the animals she loved so much. Eventually, the decision to leave her job at the zoo was inevitable, and with it, a significant part of her identity was lost. Transitioning to life at St. Clair Psychiatric Hospital was painful. Mary, who had always been an independent and strong woman, now found herself dependent on others' care, struggling to find new meaning in her life. Her memories of the lions, however, remained vivid, becoming a refuge in her turbulent mind. At St. Clair, Mary adapted to a monotonous routine but found small comforts in her memories and the activities she could still perform. Mornings began early with a brief walk through the hospital garden, where she watched the birds and wrote in an old diary filled with stories of the past. Afternoons were spent in the recreation room, where she dedicated herself to drawing the animals she loved, especially the lions. These activities were an escape from the reality surrounding her, and a way to keep alive the connection with her former life. The hospital staff, though aware of her history, did not fully understand the depth of her connection with the animals. They saw her as a calm patient whose mind sometimes wandered to distant, wild lands, a world where Mary was still the guardian of majestic lions. The night at St. Clair Psychiatric Hospital began like any other. The night shift staff prepared for another calm night, checking on patients and adjusting the lights to a soft and comforting glow. The usually calm corridors echoed the silent footsteps of the nurses, and the low voices of the staff mingled with the distant sound of the television in the recreation room. However, this peace was abruptly interrupted by an unusual sound coming from the entrance doors. A loud bang followed by a deep guttural roar cut through the air, leaving everyone frozen. The lion, imposing and majestic, appeared at the hospital entrance, its massive figure illuminated by the security lights. Its eyes gleamed with an intensity that caused a mix of fascination and terror. The first to notice the lion's presence were the security guards, who initially thought it was an illusion or a mistake. However, the reality of the imminent danger quickly set in. Within seconds, the hospital, which had been immersed in its peaceful routine, was engulfed in chaos. Staff and patients ran in all directions, screaming and seeking refuge. The lion's roar echoed through the corridors, amplifying the panic. Nurses tried to calm the most fragile patients while doctors desperately sought ways to contain the animal. The doors were locked and attempts to contact authorities were made, but each moment felt like an eternity as the lion slowly advanced through the corridors, as if on a deliberate search. The psychiatric hospital, typically a place of calm and recovery, transformed into a scene of uncontrolled panic. The sight of the lion with its tense muscles and majestic mane was a wild and brutal reminder of nature, which seemed so distant from the controlled environment of the hospital. The creature moved with purpose, ignoring the staff and patients' attempts to divert it. Some, in a state of shock, watched silently, unable to process what they were seeing. Others barricaded themselves in rooms, blocking doors with furniture and hoping the nightmare would pass. The sound of falling objects and breaking glass mingled with the continuous roar of the lion, creating a cacophony that made everyone's hearts race faster. Amid the turmoil, a small group of staff stood out for attempting to organize a response. Led by Dr. James Carter, the hospital's chief psychiatrist, they gathered in the security room, watching surveillance cameras that showed the lion's progress. Dr. Carter, known for his calm under pressure, tried to formulate a plan while keeping his gaze fixed on the screen. "We need to find out what it wants," he said, his voice firm despite the evident tension. The idea that the lion might be searching for something specific began to take shape. However, the options were limited, and time seemed to be running out quickly. Every second counted as they tried to avoid a greater tragedy. The lion's invasion was not just an unexpected event. It was a challenge that tested the courage and ingenuity of everyone at St. Clair. As the lion advanced through the corridors of St. Clair Psychiatric Hospital, the first encounters between the majestic beast and the staff were marked by a mix of confusion and paralyzing fear. The first to cross its path were the night nurses doing their regular rounds. Turning a corner, John, a veteran nurse, came face to face with the lion. For a moment that seemed to stretch forever, he froze, eyes locked with the animal's, trying to process the surreal situation. The lion, in turn, seemed as surprised as John, its piercing gaze fixed on the man. Unsure of what to do, John took a few cautious steps back, but the lion did not advance. Instead, it simply roared again, a powerful sound that reverberated through the hospital walls, sending waves of panic to those who heard it. As John retreated, trying to remain calm, other staff members began to gather, drawn by the roar and the alarming behavior of their colleagues. A group of nurses, led by Sarah, tried to keep the patients calm and away from the danger zone. "Everyone to your rooms, lock the doors," Sarah shouted, her voice trembling but firm, as she gestured for everyone to move. The atmosphere, laden with fear and uncertainty, made even the most experienced staff members tremble. Amid the chaos, Dr. James Carter tried to organize a coordinated response, asking the security team to monitor the lion's movements through the surveillance cameras. The situation was far from being under control, and each encounter with the creature only heightened the tension. Efforts to contain the lion and guide the patients to safe areas were hampered by a lack of clear communication and growing panic. In a desperate attempt to block the lion's advance, some staff improvised barricades with furniture and medical equipment, but the animal's strength was something they could not underestimate. In one of these encounters, the lion entered a recreation room where some patients had sought refuge. The sight of the lion with its imposing mane and powerful stance made many scream and retreat, while others in shock simply watched. The lion, in turn, seemed less interested in attacking and more in finding something or someone. This behavior increased the confusion among the staff, who struggled to understand the animal's motivation. Amid the confusion, a small group of staff, led by Sarah and Dr. Carter, tried a different approach. They decided to try calming the lion instead of confronting it. Sarah, who had previous experience with animals on farms, recalled calming techniques used with large animals. Armed only with courage and a few improvised tools like blankets and light tranquilizers, they cautiously approached the lion. "Let's go slowly," Sarah murmured, her eyes fixed on the lion as she moved slowly. The animal, sensing the change in approach, stopped roaring and observed attentively. Dr. Carter, maintaining a calm posture, began to speak in a low and soft tone, trying to calm the environment. However, despite their efforts, tension and fear still hung in the air, and each movement seemed to carry the weight of an uncertain fate. Amid the chaos reigning at St. Clair Psychiatric Hospital, a young assistant named Thomas stood out for his curiosity and ability to think outside the box. While other staff focused on keeping the lion contained and ensuring the patient's safety, Thomas couldn't help but wonder why a lion would choose to invade a psychiatric hospital in the first place. Determined to find answers, he began investigating the animal's behavior. Thomas spent hours reviewing surveillance footage, observing every movement of the lion. He noticed that instead of acting purely aggressively, the lion seemed to follow a pattern, as if searching for something specific. This observation led him to explore patient files, hoping to find some clue that could explain the lion's presence. During his investigation, Thomas came across the file of Mary, an elderly patient who had been at the hospital for several years. Her medical records mentioned a history of working with animals but did not detail much more. Intrigued, Thomas decided to delve into the notes and discovered that Mary had been an animal keeper at a renowned zoo before her mental health began to decline. There were mentions of a particular lion with whom Mary had formed a special bond. This lion, named Simba, was described as one of the most intelligent and affectionate animals under her care. Thomas began to realize that this past connection might be the key to understanding the lion's behavior now present in the hospital. Armed with this new information, Thomas approached Dr. Carter and Sarah to share his findings. "I think we've found a clue to what's happening," he began, his words filled with urgency. Dr. Carter, initially skeptical, listened attentively as Thomas detailed Mary's story and her bond with Simba. "If this lion is really Simba, he might be here because of Mary," Thomas concluded, his voice full of conviction. Dr. Carter and Sarah exchanged looks, both aware that this theory, although unlikely, was the best explanation they had so far. They decided to confront Mary with the information, hoping she could confirm or deny the connection. When informed about the lion's presence and the possibility that it was her former charge, Mary initially reacted with disbelief. However, as Thomas, Dr. Carter, and Sarah explained the situation and their observations, something within her began to change. Her eyes filled with tears as long-forgotten memories resurfaced. "Simba," she murmured almost to herself, as images of her days as a lion keeper flooded her mind. Mary began to recount stories of her time with Simba, how he was more than just an animal under her care but a true friend. "He always knew where to find me even when he was far away," she said, her voice trembling. What had started as a night of terror was transforming into an emotional reunion between a woman and an animal who, in some way, had never forgotten her. Mary, still shaken by memories of her past as an animal keeper, was accompanied by Thomas and Sarah to the wing where the lion was being kept under surveillance. The atmosphere was charged with tension, with nurses and doctors watching apprehensively as Mary slowly approached the large metal door. Dr. Carter, coordinating the situation, gave the signal to open the door, allowing Mary and Simba to see each other for the first time in years. The lion, who had been restless and in constant motion, froze upon seeing Mary. Their piercing eyes met, and a heavy silence fell over the corridor. With hesitant steps, Mary advanced, her hand trembling slightly as she extended it towards Simba, while everyone around watched in complete silence. Simba, initially rigid, began to move slowly towards Mary, his eyes never leaving her face. The tension in the air was palpable, each step of the lion echoing in the absolute silence of the hospital. Mary, with her heart racing, murmured soft words, almost a familiar melody she used to sing to calm the animals at the zoo. "Simba, my dear, it's me, Mary," she repeated, her voice full of emotion and hope. The lion, hearing the familiar voice, began to relax, his once tense ears now lowered in recognition. When Simba finally got close enough, Mary extended her hand to gently touch the lion's head, feeling the warmth and texture of his fur, something she never thought she would feel again. The scene that unfolded next was one of indescribable beauty and emotion. Simba, feeling Mary's familiar touch, closed his eyes for a moment, as if absorbing every second of this reunion. Then he moved closer, rubbing his massive head against Mary's frail body, emitting a deep, comforting sound that was a mix of purring and soft growling. Mary, in turn, couldn't hold back her tears, embracing the lion with all the strength her frail arms allowed. The staff and patients watching the scene were visibly moved, many with tears in their eyes. It was as if a miracle was happening before them, a moment that transcended words and touched directly the hearts of everyone present. The moment of reconnection between Mary and Simba continued, each second reinforcing the deep and inexplicable bond between them. Simba, who had been restless and agitated, seemed to find inner peace next to Mary. He lay down beside her as if protecting her while Mary gently stroked his head and spoke to him in soft, affectionate tones. Dr. Carter, Thomas, and Sarah, watching closely, couldn't help but marvel at the scene. "I never thought I would see something like this," Dr. Carter murmured to Thomas, who nodded silently. The hospital, which had been a place of fear and chaos moments before, was now immersed in an almost reverent calm, with everyone witnessing the power of love and loyalty between a woman and a lion. Simba's presence in the hospital did not go unnoticed by the administration and local authorities. Soon, St. Clair Psychiatric Hospital was surrounded by police, veterinarians, and even journalists, all eager to understand and control the unusual situation. The hospital director, Dr. Thompson, was particularly concerned about the safety of patients and staff. He convened an emergency meeting with the team, where the tension was palpable. "We need to remove this lion immediately," Dr. Thompson stated, his voice firm but worried. However, Mary, perceiving the growing fear and disorder, intervened calmly. "Please everyone listen to me. Simba is here for a reason. He is not a threat if treated with care. Let me help control the situation," she said, her voice filled with a quiet authority that surprised everyone in the room. Despite initial reluctance, the team decided to follow Mary's advice, recognizing that her experience as a lion keeper could be the key to resolving the crisis. Under Mary's guidance, an area of the hospital was transformed into a temporary space suitable for housing Simba, away from the most vulnerable patients. Meanwhile, authorities maintained a security perimeter around the hospital. Mary spent most of her time with Simba, using handling techniques and natural calming methods she had learned during her years at the zoo. She began feeding the lion and talking to him, using the soft and firm tone that had always worked. "Simba, you are safe here. Trust me," she whispered as she stroked his head, a gesture that conveyed confidence and security to both the lion and the onlookers. The hospital administration, initially skeptical, began to notice the difference Mary was making. The doctors and nurses who had viewed Simba with fear and distrust started to see the serenity in the lion's behavior when he was with Mary. Dr. Thompson, after observing closely, called Mary for a private conversation. "Mary, we are seeing positive results with your approach. However, we need a long-term plan," he said. Mary nodded, already anticipating the complexity of the situation. "Yes, Dr. Thompson. We need to find a way to transfer Simba to a more suitable environment without causing him more stress. Until then, I can ensure he stays calm," she replied, with a determination only someone deeply knowledgeable about animals could have. The media, which initially reported the incident with tones of sensationalism and fear, began to change its narrative upon witnessing the unique connection between Mary and Simba. The news now spoke of the incredible story of a former zookeeper who had reunited with her lion at a psychiatric hospital, and how she was helping to keep everyone safe. This change in public perception slightly eased the pressure on the hospital. Nevertheless, daily challenges continued, from ensuring Simba received the right food to dealing with the growing curiosity of patients. Mary, however, stood out as a beacon of hope and resilience, using every opportunity to educate her team and the curious about lion behavior and the importance of treating animals with respect and understanding. The night of Simba's invasion of St. Clair Psychiatric Hospital became a local legend, something everyone at the hospital and the surrounding community would remember forever. The experience left an indelible mark not only on Mary and Simba's lives but also on the staff, patients, and even the authorities involved. Dr. Thompson, once skeptical, became a passionate advocate for understanding and respecting the bonds between humans and animals. "I never imagined I would see something like this," he confessed in a team meeting. "This experience taught us that empathy and compassion are essential in all our interactions, whether with humans or animals." The transformation was remarkable. The hospital, which once operated with a degree of apathy, now vibrated with new energy, where each staff member viewed their work through a lens of greater understanding and humanity. Mary, who had spent years feeling lost and disconnected from the world due to her declining mental health, found new purpose and meaning in life after reuniting with Simba. The daily interaction with the lion revitalized her spirit and brought out her dormant skills and knowledge. She became a central figure in the hospital, not just as a patient but as a mentor to many. "Simba brought me back to life," she would say. "He reminded me who I am and what I am capable of." This deep and rediscovered bond inspired other patients to explore their own stories and hidden talents, fostering a wave of self-discovery and collective healing that was palpable in the corridors of St. Clair. The local community, which initially reacted with fear and curiosity to the lion's presence, began to actively engage with the hospital and its new mission. Animal welfare organizations, schools, and community groups collaborated to create educational programs about wildlife conservation and the importance of emotional bonds between different species. Local school children regularly visited the hospital to learn about Simba and Mary's inspiring story. "Mary and Simba's story shows us that animals have feelings and memories, just like us," said a teacher during a school visit. This new understanding fostered a sense of responsibility and respect for animals in the community, something Mary and Simba had started so unexpectedly. As time passed, Simba was transferred to a specially prepared wildlife sanctuary, where he could live in an environment more suited to his needs. The farewell was emotional, with Mary spending her last moments with the lion, stroking his mane and whispering words of love and gratitude. "You will always be my friend, Simba. Thank you for everything," she said with tears in her eyes. The impact of this experience remained with Mary and everyone involved. The hospital was never the same again. It was now a symbol of hope, resilience, and living proof that bonds between humans and animals can transcend any barrier. Mary continued to be an inspiration, her story told and retold as a testament to the transformative power of love and true connection.